Hi, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and on this podcast, we're going to talk about some deep stuff. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, and often, the only person who can't see that is you. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you're from, there's greatness in you. Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and welcome to the Transformation Starts Today podcast, where I interview leaders, champions, and high performers from all walks of life as they share their story, the lessons they've learned along the way, and empowering perspectives to help you create an extraordinary life without regret, starting today. Today we have with us Elvira Hopper. Elvira V. Hopper's crap magnet to miracle magnet story includes her leaving an award-winning six-figure Big Pharma career through a blessed mental breakdown to live her authentic Act 2 in her late 40s. Her unique inner work modality allowed her to break free from the shackles of generational trauma to become a now award-winning pro-jazz artist at 51 years old. She has performed and recorded on world-class jazz stages with and for celebrities, including Oprah Winfrey's partner, Stedman Graham. Elvira is also a multi-award-winning life coach and an international inspirational speaker represented by one of the oldest global speakers bureaus. She is the self-proclaimed poster child for it's never too late to live the life of your dreams. She inspires other heart-centered midlife plus humans to make the rest of their life the best of their life so they don't die with their real music still in them. The way that saved her life at rock bottom has now become the foundation of a global movement helping heart-centered humans do their inner work of healing and growth. At 61, she claims to not work a day in her life, and her life is just beginning. In her true legacy, Act 3, she wants this for the world. Elvira, I am so excited to have you on the show with us. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jamil. You are an absolute, this was said to me once, and I'm going to say it to you. You are a gem in the crown of the universe. I just want to honor you. It's a joy to be here.
Thank you so much. I fully receive that. And it's such a wonderful experience to be with you as well. You know, you and I got to meet not too long ago, and I got to be on your show, and we got to have such a wonderful conversation. And I just so resonated with the light that you put out. And so right back at you, gem in the universe. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. I love the Mutual Admiration Society. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I find your bio
Mm.
so fascinating, and I think it's got these bits and pieces that so many great conversations could start as a result of what's that about? What's that about? And so for our listeners who don't know you, they haven't heard your story yet, could you share with us who you are, why you do what you do, and like what led you to be here right now?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many ways to approach this. I usually like to start with my origin story, right? Every superhero needs a good origin story,
Yeah, please
and
do.
this is my origin story, of what turned me into a crap magnet, and then what allowed me to become a miracle magnet, and now this modality that saved me at rock bottom, which I'll talk about, is now become the foundation of a global movement that allows others to use the same teachings and tools and be able to shift their reality, their vibration. Like they can go from being really negative into being really positive if they want it, right? So I like to tell this story just to explain why I was the way I was for so many years, and then have the breakdown and the breakthrough. So is that okay if I tell about that story? Yeah, okay. How much time do we have? I don't even know. Let me
Yeah.
know.
Somewhere between an hour and 75 minutes on average.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, I can tell this story then. Okay, great. So when I was a little girl, we came from Italy to Canada when I was 5, and I was the skinny little kid. And when my parents had, they immigrated, there was a lot of stress at that time, obviously, coming to Canada from Italy with 2 little children. My brother was 3, and I was 5. And anyway, there was a lot of stress. And so I ate my emotions because my parents weren't happy. So I ate my emotion. I was the sensitive, artistic child. And so I became this rotund little 11-year-old. Okay. So here I am now. I'm in this audience at a cabaret show. Okay. So my dad worked in the restaurant downstairs, and this show was going on upstairs. And so I don't know why I was there. It was a cabaret show. It was very sexy. It wasn't for kids, but somehow I was in the audience. It was destiny that I'd be in the audience. So here I am in the audience. And, remember what I look like? I'm this rotund little child. Was I there because my dad was babysitting me for the night, or needed a sitter for the night and he stuck me there because he had to work? Or was it because I insisted on going because my mom said you were singing and dancing before you were walking and talking? It's who I was, right? I was an artist. I was an entertainer. I was a performer. That's who I was. So God knows which of those two it was, but here I am, and I'm watching these beautiful women up on stage, and I am. Do you like to be addressed Dr. Jamil, or is Jamil okay?
Whatever works for you.
Either one. Okay, great. So Jamil, I'm there in the audience and I'm looking at these goddesses up on the stage, and they are singing and they're dancing and their hair is beautiful, their makeup, their clothes, and they're just the most exotic, beautiful creatures I've ever seen. And you remember what I look like, right? So, so anyways, my dad comes to get me after the show was over and sees the stars in my eyes and says, Elvira, would you like to meet them backstage? Because he knew them, and I guess he wanted to impress his little daughter. So I look at my dad, and I'm like, I can meet them? Like, I felt like I was meeting the queens of the world. So he brings me backstage, and these women are looking at me, and they're looking at my dad, and they're like, Joe, this is your daughter. She's so beautiful. And I'm thinking, I'm beautiful? I'm a fat little Italian kid. You're beautiful for telling me I'm beautiful. And Jamil, honestly, that was the first time I felt seen in my life. I felt like I was the pain in the ass little kid that was always running around and misbehaving and, very active, right? Artistic, sensitive, crying all the time, like just very emotional, right? And yet these women were me just a few steps ahead of me, right? I was 11, they were probably in their 20s and 30s, right? So here I am, and I am watching them, and I can't believe just how incredible these women are. So I walk away with my dad, and I knew exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up, who I wanted to be. So my dad, who could sing like Pavarotti, who
Wow.
was told by his parents that good men are not on stages singing, good men are good husbands and fathers and providers. His sister, just to give you an idea of the backstory here, and she was on Italian opera stages up until she was married, and then she was told by her parents, hang up your opera gown, put on an apron, because you can't step foot on another opera stage ever again. Because the thinking back then from my grandparents, right, this is the generational trauma, was that good people are not on stages. Good people are good husbands and fathers and mothers and providers. They take care of their families, right? That was the mindset. So both my dad and my aunt, I'll say it right now, they both died with their real music still in them. They both died with horrible diseases, because I believe when we are not allowed to be aligned, authentic, and fully self-expressed, our bodies keep score, and we can get sick physically, mentally, relationally. It affects all those areas. My dad died with 2 types of cancer, mental health struggles, on meds, and a marriage in shambles. My aunt died from a really horrible disease. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just remember that when she heard that I became a jazz singer, like at 51, and I was on world-class stages, she said to her kids, my cousins, who I was on Facebook, I still am on Facebook with, she said, good for Elvira. She was able to do what I wasn't, right? Because she was kept small in the box for her parents' comfort. So was my dad, right? So going back to walking away with my dad from that cabaret show, I said, Daddy, I want to be one of them when I grow up. With stars in my eyes, I said that to him. So what do you think my dad said to me, Jamil?
Mm. It could go a few different ways.
Exactly. Most people go one way or the other. Yeah. Which one do you think he went with?
Probably if you're speaking to an 11-year-old, you can do it, but maybe in the back of his head, maybe thinking something else.
Okay. Thank you for saying that. So now I'm going to shock you, because here's what he said to me. Okay. Elvira, you can't be one of those women. Because that's what I said. I said, Daddy, I want to be one of those women when I grow up. And he goes, Elvira, you can't be one of those women. because those women are sluts.
Mm.
I was shut down. I wasn't allowed to be me anymore. That was a core wound where basically I heard, I'm not allowed to be me. Okay, daddy, who do you need me to be so you will love me? And that's when I started, well, that's when I realized he wanted me to be a good little Italian girl, get good grades, get a good career, get a good husband, and give him some grandchildren, right? Pretty typical stuff, right? But saying that to someone who wants to be on a world-class stage, like talk about sticking me in a box, right? So that's when I became the people pleaser. That's when I became the imposter. That's when I started living out of alignment. That's when I chose not one, but two solid healthcare careers because he wanted me to be a doctor. I didn't have the marks to be a doctor. So I became a lab technologist and I worked in cancer research for 7 years, got bullied to heck and went to a dark place mentally because that was a sign from the universe to get the hell out of that life. It wasn't who I was, right? So I became first a lab tech, had a breakdown at the end of that after 7 years. I thankfully, Tony Robbins helped me to get from the lab into Big Pharma. So I went from this place of depression because I was being bullied and anxiety and panic attacks and I went into Big Pharma. So I started selling, lab equipment and I became award winning and so it was better than working in the lab, but it still wasn't who I was, right? So I had a few chances to be, expressed, right? Actually, my first chance to be not fully self-expressed, but reasonably self-expressed was when I worked in the lab and I became a professional cheerleader for our Toronto football team. So that was kind of cool. So I would go out to the football teams and dance on the field, and it was really fun because I got to be a performer. That's who I was at my heart and my heart and soul. And fun fact, the name of my first jazz band is Heart and Soul. Anyway, so back then when I would dance, when I would go out dancing on the field, my dad would like tease me mercilessly. Like, what are you doing going out and shaking your behind on the field, and all of that stuff, right? Because he saw my uniform. It was pretty scantily clad. So he was judging me. And I did this when I was 25. So at that point, Jamil, I had the courage to say, Dad, just back off. I love to do this. Just, I didn't get sucked into it. You know what I mean? But basically I got teased. I got shunned. It was just not fun. But I did that for 1 year, and that was my one good year in the lab where I could tolerate all the bullying and all the negative stuff because I got to be me during that 1 year. It was a lot of excitement. It was a lot of fun, and I got to meet a lot of amazing friends that are still friends today. Anyway, so back to the story. So when I became a lab tech, went to Big Pharma, it was a lot better. Still, it wasn't who I was. So I would struggle at different points because I was living out of alignment, right? The universe tries to wake you, shake you to wake you. I would still get bullied, every once in a while. I would still go to a victim-like state. I would suffer depression, anxiety, panic attacks, on and off, right? I would what was the other thing? I had an eating disorder. When I was a cheerleader, I had an eating disorder. Most of us did because we needed to stay really slim for our uniforms and they would kick us off the team if we gained weight. So there was a lot of issues around food, right? So anyway, so these are just some of the things I dealt with. And again, I share them because I want you to see the full picture that when you live out of alignment, the universe is showing you that, hey, you know what? There's something out of alignment here. You deserve better than this, right? So over those years, I did a lot of personal development. As I said, Tony Robbins got me from out of the lab into Big Pharma, and his teachings and tools were great. And then I done this thing called Landmark Education. Have you ever heard of Landmark, Jamil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever do Landmark?
I haven't done it, but I've studied a lot of from Werner Erhard, who's the guy who created it.
Okay, there you go. He's the originator of it. Yeah. So those teachings and tools had helped me at various points. Very strong modality. I want to say I brought 5 people into Landmark. They don't pay you to bring anybody in, but you just bring people in because it helped you. It can help your friends and family as well. So they're very smart, very good marketing machine. Anyway, I brought 5 people into Landmark. I think 3 of them had nervous breakdowns because the technology is very in your face. I kind of liken it to toxic masculine energy. And Tony Robbins, God bless him, he helped me at one point, but a lot of people have found him to be toxic masculine energy as well. And I'm sharing this for a reason, because you're going to hear about it in a second. So basically, yeah, when I went through those, those inauthentic years, 27 in total, there were ups and downs, and I dealt with it, relatively good, because I would put a smile on my face, pretend everything was okay. And that was my ego, just wanting to, look good to the world. But on the inside, I was struggling. My marriage was struggling. 3 different times I thought our marriage was over. My husband today, we're married 35 years in June. It's heaven on earth. But for most of it, it was hell on wheels, Jamil. And hey, that rhymes. And I nearly thought it was over 3 different times. Why? Because I lived out of alignment, because I was a people pleaser, because I used to need outer validation like I needed oxygen, right? So that's not good for a marriage, because people would, like flirt and pay attention to me, and it made our relationship really rocky. Okay. So that was another manifestation of living out of alignment, right? Being susceptible to marital issues, right? And that's what a lot of people don't even realize. Like, people have affairs, and they have their marriages break up, and they don't realize it's because they haven't done their inner work. They haven't connected to who they truly are. They haven't dug deep and let go of the old stories and patterns and conditioning that they were raised with, so they can become fully themselves. And when they become fully themselves, they don't look outside themselves for validation, because they have everything inside. Is this making sense?
Very much so.
Yeah. Okay, cool, cool. All right. So what happened is, I went through those years, and then all of a sudden, here I am. I'm at this party, and a friend of mine who had left the pharmaceutical industry and became a life coach, she hosted this party, and I'm there, and I see her, and I know her, I knew her really well, because we used to job share when we were in Big Pharma together when our kids were little. So we took one job and split it in half so that we could be with our little boys at home. They were like almost the same age. And so I knew her really well. And she was like this, drug rep that was, like just like me, right? Like, get the numbers, get the trip at the end of the year, like very male energy, right? And she used to have like these furrows in her brow, and her jaw was like really square. And anyways, I haven't seen her for a year. And I go to her house, and she has a bunch of women over for martinis. And she looks so beautiful. She's got like her face was like super soft, like, this, I don't know how this happens, but the square jaw just rounded off. She didn't have these furrows in her brow anymore. And she had this really calm, beautiful energy. And I said, I haven't seen you in a year. What have you done? You look amazing. And she said, Elvira, in the past year, I've become a life coach. And she left the pharmaceutical company. She got this amazing package that took care of her for almost a full year, and she became a life coach. And I said, oh my God. I said, what's a life coach? And she goes, well, it's someone who takes you from where you are to where you want to be, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you can get paid for that? And she said, yep, I get paid very well for that. And I'm like, okay, to myself, Jamil, I said, I don't know what the hell she did, but one day I'm doing it too. And that was it. I just put it out in the universe. I just cast that out into, the what Abraham Hicks calls the vortex of desire. Okay, I just put that out there. And then later that night, I get dragged into her kitchen from this woman who said, Elvira, I'm psychic, and I don't want to be psychic. It's a gift that I can usually block. My father is a guru in India, and he gave me this gift. But when I've been drinking, the veil gets lowered, and sometimes I see things, and I see something, and I need to tell you about it. And I was like, what the hell is she going to tell me? So look at what just happened. I said, one day I'm going to do what she did. And now we're in her kitchen, and she's looking at me we're sitting on these bar stools, and we're knee to knee. And she looks me straight in the eyes, and she goes, Elvira, I need you to know that you are a healer. And I'm like, oh, thank God, Shalini. I had no idea what the hell you were going to tell me. And I said, I know I'm a healer. I'm a Reiki practitioner, right? When my son was really little, he had issues with his intestines. And the only thing that could support him was when I put my hands over his little belly, and he did his business. And that's what I needed to do in order to support my child. So I became a Reiki practitioner. I didn't go looking for Reiki. Reiki found me because my little boy needed it. So today I've got a whole bunch of modalities in my backpack. But back then I was a Reiki practitioner. So she looks at me, and when I said I was a Reiki practitioner, and she's shaking her head from side to side, she said, "No, Elvira, I'm talking a much bigger level than that." I said, "What do you mean a much bigger level? Like, I'm a drug rep, right? Like, who am I to be a much bigger level healer on the planet?" And she said this to me, "Elvira, I'm talking on the level of a Mother Teresa." And I just stepped back and I was like, "You're effing crazy." And I walked away. And Jamil, I started to cry. Why do you think I started to cry when I walked away?
Because deep down, you want that to be true. And your whole life up until that point is saying that that can't be true.
Yes. Oh my God, exactly. My soul knew what was true, that this woman wasn't some, idiot that didn't know what she was saying. She actually had a gift. And yet my head, my ego said, how the hell is that ever going to happen? And who the hell are you to be like a Mother Teresa? So that was it. I went home that night, and then, so that was a Friday. The next Monday, I go into work. My boss, my mentor, the guy that hired me at the highest salary, biggest car, biggest benefits, biggest bonus, is mysteriously let go. So, had I been a smart girl, I would have realized, oh my goodness, Scott's gone. Maybe I'm meant to go as well. Maybe I'm meant to leave and become a life coach, just like I saw my friend on Friday do. And, had I been a smart girl, had my ego, not been firmly entrenched, I would have probably left too. I would have asked for a package and said, "Hey, I'm not happy here. You've let go of my mentor." And, he basically poached me from my friend's company to this company. And like, I knew life was not going to be the same, right? Instead, my ego kicks in and says, "Oh, maybe this is a sign that you're meant to be the manager now." So that's what I did. I go for his job. And guess what? One of my dear friends in the company, he was my work spouse. We got hired at the same time. We were very close. And he said to me, "Elvira, you know what? I think I'm going to go for the job too." And I said, "Great. If you get the job, I'll be happy for you and I can work with you." And he said, "Yeah. And if you get the job, I'll be happy for you and I can work for you." So we decided it was going to be really, really friendly. So then we get pitted against each other. We get asked to present at a national sales meeting. And I didn't do a very good job. I didn't know the numbers that were up on the screen. He knew them really well. He looked like the rock star. I looked like the jackass. So now he smells blood and he's like, "This job is mine." So he goes around to one of our colleagues who was a friend of both of ours, and he said, "If it's between me and Elvira, who would you pick?" And she comes to me later and says, "This is what he said about you." And that was it. That meant war. So now we're no longer the friends competing in a friendly way. Now we are against each other. And you know what happens? He takes it personally when I started retaliating because there was a meeting and I just spoke up and, asserted myself and kind of put him in a bad light. Well, now it's war because he's an alpha male and he wants that at all costs. And he doesn't care about the relationship anymore. And he basically said, "That's it. You're dead to me." And he made everybody in the company hate me. So now I went from being the highest paid, most valued rep right up here to now I'm a piece of dirt. Nobody's talking to me. I'm going into meetings and people are behind my back and giggling and laughing. I'm a laughing stock. I am humiliated. I go to a dark place mentally. That depression, anxiety, panic attacks that I used to feel sporadically throughout my 27 years, I started feeling really, really in a major way because I was a people pleaser. I needed outer validation like I needed oxygen. When nobody's talking to me, I don't like if they all hate me, I hate myself because that outer validation is what determined my worth. There's a big mic drop there. How many people do you know that don't do the inner work and they need that outer validation like they need oxygen? That was me back then. And so because now I'm walking around with a kick me sign on my back that basically says, "Kick me, I'm a victim," vibrationally, I'm vibrating at a very low level. When I was a cheerleader, the mean girl in that group who used to invite me to all of her inner circle parties. And I was a very happy, go lucky person for a long time, even though ego ran my show. But that was it. I put on a good smile and she would like having me at her parties. And all of a sudden now I don't have a smile. I am in a dark place and she starts bullying me. And so now she's taken all my so-called friends away to her parties that I'm not invited to anymore. And they're talking shit behind my back. So look what's happening. For 2 solid years, they're talking shit behind my back at work, socially. I go to a dark place mentally, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, bipolar, marriage on the skids. I'm a mess. I barely get out of bed to feed my child and get him off to school. Right. So this is what I was in a holding pattern for 2 solid years. It was embarrassing. It was awful. It was awful. And yet it's exactly what was meant to happen. Because what happened was when I hit my rock bottom and I literally said to my higher power, give me a way out of this hell. That's not drugs. That's not therapy. Quick explanation of that. Not drugs. I was a drug rep. I knew what drugs do to our body. I didn't want to be dependent on them for the rest of my life. So that was one reason. Also, my daddy, because he lived out of alignment, he could sing like Pavarotti, never got aligned, authentic, and fully self-expressed. He got bullied at work in his 50s, Jamil, and he had a nervous breakdown. And the only thing that got him to a place where he was stable was through a very strong anti-anxiety drug, I'm sure you know, called lorazepam. He had to go on lorazepam for the rest of his life. And when he died 12 years ago, his liver was massive. So that is what drugs do to our body. And no disrespect to anybody that takes drugs for their mental health. It wasn't going to be a solution for me. And then I had done therapy for 2 years, right? So when I was a new mommy, therapy helped me because I had a lot of mommy issues. And basically, my mom is 85 this year. She's my best friend today. So I know that therapy works. However, I didn't want to go through 2 more years of therapy to get over my mental health issues when I hit my rock bottom, when I didn't want to live anymore. And I had done Tony Robbins. Those teachings didn't work anymore. And I'd done landmark education. Those teachings didn't work anymore. And I had been Catholic my whole life. Those teachings didn't work anymore. So I had to hit that rock bottom point where literally I was ready to check out of this world unless my higher power gave me a way out. And guess what, Jamil? I got that way out. And that way out has now become the foundation of a global movement. I was told it wasn't meant just for me. It was meant for me to share with the world. And now I have a beautiful growing team that is sharing it with the world because I can't do it by myself. And they're also sharing their own modalities on my platform because I'm the founder of the Miracle Magnet movement that states all modalities matter. This was just one modality that saved me. It was a gentle rain soaks, divine feminine approach versus the in your face toxic masculine approaches and patriarchal systems like the Catholic Church that I had been exposed to. But when I had that rock bottom and the breakthrough, the spiritual breakthrough, it was a divine, feminine, gentle rain soaks approach. And now I have men that are facilitating my work as well because they believe that that is how we're going to help humanity, heart-centered humans like us that have been to dark places, and we don't need to be further traumatized. So this is a beautiful modality. And virtually every graduate of this program wants to become a facilitator of it. So that's how it's growing. So let me tell you a few of the tools that I got at rock bottom. May I share a few of the tools?
Please do.
Okay. So when I hit rock bottom and I said, I want a way out, that's not drugs, that's not therapy, that's not Tony Robbins, that's not landmark education, that's not religion or for a way of killing myself. And I got it. And I realized, oh my God, Elvira, and I pray this supports somebody today, at least one person that's meant to hear this. Elvira, and so I got the insights, right? You're being bullied over here and you're being bullied over here. Who's the common denominator? You. And I realized I brought on the bullying with my vibration. I'm going to undo the bullying with my vibration. And then I was gifted other tools about tearing the kick me sign off my back. And as soon as I did that, and I realized these people are your angels of evolution, they have forced you to leave behind this inauthentic life to live your truth. Okay. They forced you to realize you can't do this job anymore in Big Pharma. You need to go out and do what you were brought here to do. My team now, it's almost like I'm Mother Teresa and I have all these people globally that are helping heart-centered humans do their inner work, right? She did it with the team. So that prediction is kind of coming true, right? So basically this is what I was shown, is that these people were my biggest angels of evolution. My bullies were my biggest angels of evolution. They forced me to tear the kick me sign off my back. They forced me to see that I'm better than this situation. And that is how I started shifting upwards. I started applying more of the teachings and tools shown to me, and I left depression, anxiety, panic attacks, bipolar, marriage on the skids quickly, naturally through these mindset tools. And what happened is, when I realized I'm the common denominator and I was being bullied because I was bullyable, I did my inner work to become unbullyable, unfuckwithable, untriggerable by them, because this is what I'm here to show, that anybody that's in a dark place, in a victim mindset can, and that's maybe being bullied or has like mental health issues or physical health or marital health, they can learn to go from being this crap magnet, like I was for so many years, into being a miracle magnet. And when I stopped, when basically I shifted my vibration and I stopped bullying myself, they stopped bullying me. So that was the miracle, that it transformed so quickly. Those people, they think I'm great now. One takes me out for sushi, the other one goes and bullies other people, right? So that's the power of us getting really self-aware and realizing that we're here for more. We're here to feel better. I'm better than this situation. Can I tear the kick me sign off my back so I stop getting kicked? And those are some of the key teachings of the Love Your Vibe Miracle Mindset. And the funnest fact of all, though, was when I raised my vibration so much that now I'm living in this miracle magnet zone. I'm like, oh my God, I can do anything. What is it that I really, really want to do? Well, I realized 2 years before, I saw my friend leave the industry to become a life coach. So I said, yes, I need to be a life coach. I can't do this job anymore. Can I go back to that job and not be bullied and not be shamed? Really, when a company has targeted you and you're that low, there's really no way of coming back, right? So I knew that I needed a new life. I knew that I needed to become a coach, and do what I was brought here to do. And so that was it. I ended up having this. It's a bit of a longer story. I won't tell that one right now. But essentially, the company restructured, and I got a package that took care of me for almost a full year.
Mm.
That was the universe going, oh my God, you finally connected with what it is you're meant to do. Let me make it easy for you. And so I invite anyone that's watching this, that's on the fence, and it's like they know there's more, but they just don't know what it looks like. Just take that step forward. Have the courage to say, no, I'm better than this situation. I deserve better. I want to be over here. Take that little step forward and watch the universe come and support you. That's what happened for me. I ended up leaving with a full salary, full benefits, full bonus. There were people left at that company because the company restructured. It was a bloodbath globally. They let go of half their sales force. I was the first person cut because I actually left to go on a leave of absence. That's a bit of the longer story that I won't tell right now unless you ask me about it. But I was basically told that yeah, I mean, I went off on a leave of absence, and the company restructured, and I never had to go back to this work. And I tell you, as soon as that happened, amazing things started happening. And I became a professional jazz singer at the age of 51. That was one of my fondest dreams, because at 11 years old, I saw them on the stage and I knew I wanted to be one of them. So now I'm an award-winning jazz singer, and I've performed, as you mentioned, Oprah Winfrey's Man. I won Best Band in my city last year. I performed for our mayor's 60th birthday party, private birthday party, chosen over every other musician in my city. And why do I share that? Do I share it to brag? No, I actually don't. I share it because I talk about, even if your thing happens later in life, like I dreamt it at 11, but had I become a professional singer, dancer, actor when I was 11, you know what? Maybe I'd be starving right now, or maybe I'd be in Hollywood or on Broadway. It wasn't meant to be for me when I was little to get my dream. I was meant to show people that even though you live out of alignment and you're at a certain age, 51, you can still attract miracles as that thing you want to be, right? So for me, becoming a jazz singer at 51, I've had more, because of this miracle mindset, I've had more musical miracles find me than virtually any musician I know. Because most musicians I know, God bless them, they're beautiful souls, heart-centered, sensitive, right? That's what we artists are, but they're crap magnets. They don't realize who they truly are. Their ego runs the show. They're worried about what they sound like. They're worried about what they look like. They want to get the gig at all costs. They ignore people that are doing the same thing they're doing. There's all sorts of low vibration behaviors, competition, and that's not where I am. I live up in this high vibration with my art. It's all about serving, right? When I'm on stage singing, I'm not the best singer in the world, but I'm an honest singer. I'm an authentic singer. And if I'm on stage and I sound like crap one night, you know what? I'm meant to sound like crap because someone in the audience is meant to hear me and go, she did this at 51 professionally. She's not even that good. I'm going to go do my thing too. So I pray that me being real and not perfect allows people to go do their thing imperfectly. Just start and watch it grow, because if it's your thing to do, it will find you, right? And that's what I was able to do. When I became a miracle magnet, becoming professional found me. So I just invite people to see what more is in store. Sadly, my father did know how to get out of his own effing way, fear and ego, and he just died with his real music still in him. My first love was just like my dad. He was an incredible musician, could play every instrument by heart, never read a note of music. He was in a band called the Cranberries back in the 80s. And they sort of not he wasn't in the band in the 80s, but the Cranberries started in the 80s. And then later on in years they reformed, and my first love was part of this band, and he played instruments perfectly, but he never recorded his own beautiful music and put it on an album. So when COVID hit, because he didn't have the right mindset either, and he was in a dark place just like my father, he was hit hard and wasn't able to get aligned, authentic, fully self-expressed as I was able to. So my first love died with his real music still in him. Like truly, he had over 100 incredible songs that never got recorded. And he died when COVID hit with cancers, mental health struggles, and marriage on the rocks, basically. So he was just like my dad. And that was the ultimate cost, that price that they had to pay for living out of alignment, because their bodies kept score. They didn't have the courage, they didn't have the know-how to get out of their own fear and ego and just do their thing in a big way. And I was blessed with a miracle mindset that allowed me to do that. And I'm sharing that with the world. And I want more artists to become miracle magnet musicians and artists, because we need their art. We need their music. We need their beautiful co-creations with spirit, which is what I believe we do as artists. It's not creations, it's co-creations. Spirit, source, God, universe, whatever you believe in, uses us as artists to bring something into the world. And if we don't get out of our own effing way, fear and ego, we might die with our real music still in us. And the world doesn't get what we got. And to me, that's a tragedy. And so my highest level coaching program is called the Renaissance Human Unleashed. Why be one thing when you can be all things? And it's a 6-figure coaching program, believe it or not, for high net worth individuals that are so busy looking shiny and making tons of money and having lots of fame and fortune and all that good stuff. But guess what? There's more in them. And that thing, that purpose that's bigger than them, that they're not connecting to because they're so busy looking good and making tons of money, that's burning a hole in their soul. And I want to help people not die like my first love and my dad, with their real music still in them, whether it be a book, whether it be an album, whether it be a movement, whatever it is, right? People that are at that level are very susceptible to being ruled by their ego, because it's good money, and it's good validation from the outside, right? So anyways, I just want to drop that there because I'm sure you have some questions to ask me, but that's my story in a nutshell. Does that make sense?
It very much does. Thank you so much for sharing so authentically and beautifully, Elvira. There were times in your story where I had tears in my eyes, and just getting to hear where you were along the way and where you are now. And I think it gives so much hope and inspiration to all of our listeners that their life can be that too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there were
I
so many
pray for
things,
that.
yeah, there were so many things that I wrote down based on what you were sharing. I'd love to share a few of them. I think they'll be very relevant.
Sure.
Um, hmm. So the first thing is you mentioned when you were 11 and all those performers were on stage and your father brings you to the back and they say, wow, she's so beautiful. And you said you felt seen. And what I wrote here is for all of our listeners, how could you be that person that acknowledges another person and sees
Mm.
them at such a beautiful level that nobody is, in their experience, nobody's ever told them that before? You telling
Yeah.
somebody that they're beautiful, that they're brilliant, that they can be whatever it is that they're wanting to be. You're being that light for them, and that
Yeah.
can shift their entire trajectory of their life because now it's like somebody else sees in me what I see in me. Maybe this actually could happen. Maybe this is true. And when you can be that for another,
Yes.
it's one of the greatest gifts you could ever give. And so, how could I be that person for somebody today? Whether it be your child, whether it be somebody else's child, whether it be a friend of yours, whether it be someone that you just saw for 30 seconds, you could be the miracle
Yeah.
for them. So, that was the first one.
Oh my God. Jamil, honestly, no one's ever put it that way. And I just want to acknowledge you because you are seriously a powerful light worker on this planet. You're here to help humanity at a very high level. Your beingness, like truly, like when you told your story on my show, I cried the whole time. And I honestly, like that is what you do, right? In your work, this is what I do in my work. We're able to truly see people and the potential before they even see themselves sometimes. And they have maybe a little inkling of it, but we paint the bigger picture so that they can move into that reality. That's what I do as a coach. People say, you see me better than I see myself. And I forget how they describe it. Like, you believe in me more than I believe in myself. And I'm like, yeah. Because first of all, I'm a visionary and I look way into the future. Like when I work with people, a lot of musicians actually find me men in I want to say middle-aged male musicians find me because they saw what I was able to do with my music. And literally, like, it's like so effortless to be a miracle magnet musician. And they're like, I want a piece of that, right? So they find me and they end up taking their music to such a high level because, they can now because somebody believed in them. Somebody showed them ways of being so that they could attract all the musical miracles they needed, right? So I love that you brought that up. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's like that question, how could I be, somebody's greatest cheerleader, their greatest support?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
think of it from this perspective. It's like, why not? Because what's the alternative? Are you going to be the person that just criticizes? And if you think of people like plants, it's like if you
Mm,
water the plant, it thrives. If you don't, or if you water it with something that's not appropriate, let's say it withers and dies. People are the same
yeah.
way. You water them with praise, or you
Yeah.
can water them with criticism. And if you water them
Yeah.
with criticism,
So
they're
true.
going to wither away. But if you water them with
Yeah.
praise, you have no idea the flowers, that they could produce in the world. And
Yes.
so you also
Oh, so
mentioned,
beautiful.
I think it was with your dad and with your family, but this idea of living into other people's expectations. And you said, good people do this, or it's like a good
Yeah.
husband, a good wife, a good
Yeah.
whatever. This is how they act. And here we are,
Yes.
many of our listeners have heard these things consciously or unconsciously. They're living their life out in alignment or in accordance with those values instilled on them by community, family, society, whatever it might be. But it's like I
Yeah.
always just ask that question to check in. Am I living my life or am I living somebody else's version of my life?
Exactly.
Because I'm the one at the end of the day that's going to look in the mirror and either going to say, I'm so proud of the way you're doing things. I'm so proud of who you're being. Or what are you doing? How much longer are you going to keep this facade
Yeah.
going?
Yeah.
It's like, so from
Yeah.
that space, where am I living into other people's expectations? Next thing I wrote down here is this goes with the first thing we were talking about. There's a biblical line, the power of life and death is in the tongue. And so when you said to your
Mm,
dad at 11, Dad, I want to be that when I get older,
yeah.
we have the power through our language, especially if we're somebody that the person who said that is looking up to, or we're a role model to them, or a mentor, whether it's a parent
Mhm.
role, a friend role, whatever it might be, a teacher, a student role. If somebody says to you, wow, like, I think I want to do that. If you respond
Yeah.
with, you're crazy, you can't do that, that's not possible. The power of life and death is in the tongue. You just killed that pathway for that person, especially if they're a child,
Yeah.
let's say, somebody that you have a lot of influence with, your
Yeah.
words matter. So where are you
Yeah.
being the block? Where are you being that grim reaper of the dream? Instead
Mhm.
of allowing
Mhm.
yourself to just speak life into that person, into their path of, yeah, it might not be easy, but if you really want that, you can do that. And it's like, just
Yeah.
let them know that that's possible for them. Next thing I
Yeah.
wrote down here is, you mentioned when you
I
change
love your words.
so much, you change careers and you say, well, it's better, but it's still not like who I am. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
oftentimes it takes so much courage to do what you did on your journey and to be able to shift from career to career to
Yeah.
career to not know exactly how it's going to happen, but being willing to take that first step. And I think when we
Yes.
begin that process, where let's say we shift from one to another, and we can say, well, it's better, but it's still not
Yeah.
exactly what I want. There's a certain percentage of
Yeah.
people at that point that will then settle for where
Yeah.
they're at because it's better. And
Yes.
without
Yes.
without judgment, just as an observation, fair enough. If that's what they choose to do, fair.
Yeah.
There's another percentage of people that'll say it's still not there. I don't want to keep,
Yeah.
I don't want to tolerate that. So they allow themselves to step into the change. And just like your friend, when you saw her and it's been a year and you said physically, she looked, skin was soft,
Yeah.
her jawline changed. It's like she just looked
How does
different.
that even happen?
Yeah.
But
And so in
yeah.
that same kind of way, when you follow what I'll call, let's say, your soul's calling, what your heart is wanting you to do, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, you begin to just shine. You begin to thrive because you
Yeah.
are where you're
Yeah.
supposed to be. And so that right
Yes.
there
Yes.
is another thing that I want
Oh,
to point out.
oh
Where,
my God. Can I share something really quick there, if you don't mind? What
yeah,
you just
please.
said there. So they apparently, I don't know if you've heard these studies, Jamil, but apparently they've tested on lab equipment. Don't know how it's done. I've got a science background, but I still don't understand it. They've done studies where they show that authenticity is actually a higher vibration than love. And we know that love is one of the highest vibrations. So when people are being truly themselves, it's one of the highest vibrations they can live in. That's why this inner work is so important, to shed all the old beliefs, patterns, stories, so that you get to shine bright as the star that you are. And you will manifest great things. People that vibrate at a level of authenticity, connected to their true purpose, because that's what the inner work does. It allows you to clear away all the old crap and you do connect to your true purpose. That's what I found. That's what my teams found. They vibrate at a level where they're magnetic, right? You just spoke to that, and I just wanted to add that piece.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
It speaks
Yeah.
beautifully too. There's a story you shared when you were, I think, a cheerleader, and then your father didn't approve of what you were wearing. But in your words, you said something to the degree of, Dad, back off. But it's coming
Yeah.
from a space, in my understanding, in my own life, when I decided to not go down the road that was more frequently traveled by people in my society, my culture, my family, and I really
Mhm.
had a dream and a calling to do the healing work and the coaching work and the holistic medicine and all these different things that everyone in
Mm.
my circle, nobody did that. And so
Yeah.
they approached me so many times right at the beginning of that journey to tell me that I was making a mistake, to tell me
Yeah.
that, what are you doing? Why aren't you doing A, B, and C? And I was very fortunate that the headspace I was in that moment, the heart space I was in that moment, through years of cultivating myself, I was able to see where I believe they were really coming from, which they're
Yeah.
coming from love. They're coming from
Yeah.
concern. They're coming from, I
Yes.
genuinely want the best for you, and I can't
Yeah.
see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
It seems crazy to me. So I'm trying to talk you off the
Yeah.
ledge. And I
Yeah.
remember saying to somebody in my family, this person was like 30, 40 years older than me. And I had a lot of respect
Yeah.
for them. And I told them, I so love and appreciate you that you care about me so much to bring this up.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
see that, you and many other people are not seeing what I'm seeing. And maybe you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe I'm wrong,
Yeah.
but I have to experience this because if I don't, I'm
Yes.
always going to have regret knowing that I didn't follow
Yes.
my heart. And then so
Yes.
from that space, once I did step into my authenticity more and I did follow my heart, it was amazing how quickly those same people were just bragging about me to other people, saying, "Oh, you
Yeah.
know, he does this and this and this." And it was
Oh
like,
my God, I love that.
there was that. I wish I had that in the beginning, but at the same time, uh, the people that are criticizing you, hopefully, if they're close to you, they are coming from love and concern. They're just not seeing it the way you see it. And rather than
Yeah,
from a space of resentment, what if you just acknowledged, maybe they're right, maybe I'm right. I'll
that's
only know if I
beautiful.
give it a try. I'll only know if I put myself.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. That is such a great reframe on what I believe that a lot of them come from fear, right? Because they're projecting their fears onto you. My dad wasn't able to get aligned, authentic, fully self-expressed as the world-class tenor that he was. So he just said, "Why do I want her to suffer? I want her to be a good girl and, get good grades." That was the unspoken, understanding that I had. Get a good career, get a good husband, give him grandchildren. That's what's going to cause happiness, right? Because that was his limited thinking, because that's what he got from his parents. And that's generational trauma when you keep your kids in a box, but I love how you look at it, where you look at it from love and concern. I think there's a lot of fear there too. That he loved me, but there was a lot of fear, and he projected onto me. And
Yeah.
and an interesting other story that I didn't tell, which I feel I'd like to share right now, is when I became a professional jazz singer at 51 and I recorded my jazz album a few years later. I had had two best friends of almost 40 years. One I met in grade 8, one I met in grade 10, and they were my besties. But when I had my breakdown after corporate and my spiritual breakthrough, they did not see me anymore. They looked at me like I had three heads. They didn't understand transformation. They were still the people I knew before I had my breakdown. So now here I am, this crazy lady who's, all these possibilities are open, and she's become a jazz singer at 51, and they couldn't see me. They did not see me like those ladies backstage. They just looked at me with a lot of fear. I'm sure they loved me, but they looked at me with a lot of fear and concern. Like, what is she doing? Is she going to make a fool of herself, becoming a jazz singer at 51? Like I said, I'm far from perfect, but I am real, and people do like my music, right? And I also became a musician, not just to be a musician. I'm actually a sacred sound healer. So I don't know if you can see this setup behind me, those bowls there. I use those to help people heal with sound, right? That's the reason I was meant to be a musician. But anyways, both of them were actually musicians. One played the piano and the violin, the other played the violin. And so when they saw me having the courage to become a pro jazz artist at 51, recording her jazz album live at Jazz Bistro, one of the world's top jazz venues, they looked at me like I had three heads. And instead of supporting me, one didn't show up at my CD launch. The other one showed up and talked to my mother the whole time. They could not see me on stage. Well, you know what? Eventually, I had to let those people go to my far outer circle. I love them from a distance now. They are not in my inner circle anymore. And when I made that decision, Jamil, my life took off. My business took off. And amazing new people started finding me because I allowed them to leave, because it was too toxic for me to bear. So I love them still. If one of them needs a kidney, I will be the first one in the hospital and donate my kidney today, because I still love them. I just have to love them from a distance. They cannot be in my inner circle. So I actually teach people how to do that exercise on my website for free. There's a little free gift there if you want to learn how to do that. Little plug for my website, elvirahopper.com. But that is one piece I wanted to share, because sometimes people come from love, but there's also their fear. And it's like those women did not do anything with their music. And they're like, who the hell are you to be on a jazz stage, a world-class jazz stage? Like, we didn't do it. Why are you doing it? Even though they didn't say that, that was the energy that I got. And yeah, it was dragging me down, and I had to let go. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's two things there. The first is when it comes from, so people are going to come from whatever space they come from. And so some people,
Mhm.
let's say, would come from love, concern. Some people come from fear. Some people come from anywhere in between. And if we
Yeah.
come from a space of, all right, if it's coming from fear and they're coming from a space of like, well, if I'm projecting out to you because I didn't let myself do that, or I'm afraid of that, what
Exactly.
will we do? Then there's
Exactly.
that. And then if it's the love concern, it still in a way comes off. the end result is pretty much the same. It's just the intention's different. They're still trying to stop
Hmm.
you from doing what it is that you're saying you want to do.
Hmm.
And so I think
Yeah.
each of us has the opportunity moment by moment to, how do I choose to interpret it? And what is the interpretation that allows me, in my perspective, to see this human being not as their ego, but as their spirit? And then
Yeah.
from that space, I'm still going to make the decision that I'm going to make. And so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we have to be ourselves. We don't have to, but we can choose to be our authentic self. And if we choose to do that, there's going to be a path. I think it was a Les Brown quote that I'm thinking of, and it's funny because the quote's kind of escaping me as I'm even bringing it up, but it's some variation of, on your path, there's going to be people who don't see the dream that you see, and it's because it wasn't
Yeah.
given to them. It was given to you.
Yeah.
And so it's coming from that
Yes.
space, make it okay. Like, other people aren't going to
Yeah.
see it. Okay. Now, you talked about something really
Yeah.
important right there at the end, where you said you have to let go of certain people. You have to remove yourself
Yeah.
from certain situations.
Yeah.
I've found in my life that whatever we continue to tolerate, we perpetuate. If there's something in
Yes.
our lives, if there's someone in our lives that they're not treating us the way we want them to treat us, and let's say
Yeah.
there's an environment that for us it feels, let's say, toxic. If you choose to stay, what you're doing consciously or not is you're giving permission for that to continue. And so when you
Yes.
had that moment in
Exactly.
your career where you said, can I actually go back to that job right now? Like,
Yeah.
knowing what I know about who I am, can I go back? If you do go back, then anything that happens that you don't like, you were the cause of that, because you allowed
Exactly.
that to occur. And so it's a very
Yes.
interesting, like,
Yes.
what it's like, once you know, you can't, once you see something, there's an old expression,
Yeah.
in once it sees something, it's like a rubber band. You stretch it, it never
Yes.
returns to its original dimension. The mind sees it,
Yes.
you can't unsee it. Once you see who you
Amen. Amen.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my God, I love it. That's transformation, right? So if an A becomes a B, it can't go back to being an A ever again. Just like in chemistry, right?
yeah,
Once an element, gets, whatever, heated up and it becomes a different element, and A becomes a B, it can't go back.
yeah,
So same with the elastic, exactly. And so, yeah. Anyway, there's just yeah, when you see that you're the cause, like when I got to see that if I'm being bullied here and I'm being bullied here, who's the common denominator?
yeah,
Me? I couldn't unsee that. And so I became radically self aware and realized, okay, you brought this on, you're going to undo it. And
yeah,
so I'm blessed to have a system that can help other people undo it faster. I struggled for many years. I can help people undo this quickly, right? So I have a beautiful growing team that when COVID hit, these two amazing women came together, Eleanor Hayward and Jennifer Hawkins, big shout out to them. And during COVID, they lost their jobs because one's a hairdresser and one's a massage therapist. And basically, they came together and they said, Elvira, COVID's hit. We don't know when we're going to work again. Your your system saved our lives too, and we want to share it with the world. So we're
mm,
going to create a 6-month program where we can share this with the world. And I started crying because when it saved my life quickly, naturally, my depression, anxiety, panic attacks went away, bipolar went away, marriage on the skids is now marriage heaven on earth. And I became a jazz singer at 51. I was told it isn't just for you, it's for you to share with the world. Well, back then I said, how the hell do I do that? Right. So when COVID hit, they believe they manifested COVID because it gave them the time to come together and create this amazing 6-month program that virtually every graduate wants to become a facilitator of. And that's how my team is growing. And they're sharing my magic, my story, message, and magic on my platform, but they're also getting to put their own story, message, and magic on my platform because we believe all modalities matter. All of our stories happen for us, not to us, so we can help others. And so, if anybody's watching and they know that they have a story that happened for a reason and they want to be able to help others, mine is a plug and play system that you can just plug into and not have to figure out the back end of a business. That's why I lived out of alignment as a big pharma rep for 20 years, because I basically have an MBA from that career. So I know branding and sales and marketing and promotion like the back of my hand. So that's how I'm able to help my beautiful growing team who don't have all these skills, right? So everything happens for us, not to us. I had to live out of alignment all those years, not just to show that you can have a breakdown and a breakthrough, but also because I also needed to get a serious skill set that I get to use today. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. And I love that your story
Yeah.
to me is this beautiful reminder for everyone listening that along the way, you're going to get a pull. You're going to get this, something's not feeling right. And you're also going to get that's cool. Like whatever that is, whatever it's pulling to you.
Yeah.
And then you get to decide, am I going to listen or not? You shared a quote that I really
Yeah.
loved earlier. You said, the universe shakes you to wake you. And so then everyone
Yeah.
listening, where are you ignoring the shake? Where are you coming from that
Ooh, I
space?
just got chills. Yeah.
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 Where are you being shaken? Because, for example, you mentioned, you said, I listened to my ego when the Scott, was left, and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
Yes.
maybe I'm gonna get that job instead of I need to
It's
leave.
a sign from the universe. I meant to get that job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so where do we maybe misinterpret the sign? And then
Yeah.
as a result of that, we end up creating a lot of pain and suffering for ourselves. You
Yeah.
mentioned that psychic, and she told you that, you're a healer. But she meant
Yeah.
it at such a higher level than you interpreted it initially. And then she said that Mother Teresa comment. And that goes back to what I said right in the beginning. Those cabaret dancers said to you that you were
Yeah.
beautiful and they saw you in that same
Yes.
way when we speak to somebody. So for example, if I know somebody as an example, let's just say they're a plumber and I need plumbing work in the house. And let's say I call that person and I say, hey, I'm calling you because I've got a job that I need done and I only want the world's greatest plumber to do this job. And so that's why I called you. Now, in that moment, if you say something like that and you're genuine about it, not only
Yeah.
there's like an ego boost, it feels nice to hear that, but there's something to that where you've just given them an identity to live into. And
Yes.
now
Oh,
they're more
love
than
that.
likely to
Love
step
that.
up and into this level of like pride of work of, wow,
Yes.
like somebody sees me that way. Wow,
Yeah.
I want to be that. I want to live into that. And so where can you
Yeah.
tell somebody else, this is what I see in you. This is the greatness that I see in you. And this is
Yeah.
possible for you. And at that point,
Yeah.
somebody goes, really? And now they might choose it. And fast forward 5, 10,
Yeah.
30 years, they say to you, my career, my life, my impact has been A, B, and C. And it all started from that conversation that I had with you,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
And you know what? That just makes me cry because this is why coaches get paid really well to do what they do, because one conversation can transform an entire person's life.
Yeah.
I mean, a person's entire life. Like that's why we get paid well. My yeah, I could just go on and on about that, but thank you. Like the way you're phrasing things, the way the insights you're getting, Jamil, like they're just so freaking off the charts beautiful. Thank you so much. This is like the best conversation I've had on a podcast.
Thank you, Elvira. The last comment that I wrote down that I wanted to just share is you mentioned angels of evolution. And I thought that was
Yes.
beautiful because I look at our lives, when you talk about vibration, I look at our lives as what is the external world reflecting back to us? And so
Yeah.
if we each look at our life as a blank canvas, there's a hermetic philosophy principle, some people consider it a universal law. It's called the law of correspondence. And it's as above, so below, as within, so without.
Mm,
Your external
yeah.
world is reflecting back to you in some shape, form, frequency, whatever it is, who you're being. And so
Yeah.
who's the common denominator here? What's the common denominator here? If I've had 30 relationships and they all have been bad, if I've had 20 jobs and they've all been horrible, if everyone around me is crazy, and that's my perspective, the common denominator in everything is me. And so is it possible that, it doesn't mean that everything's a co-creation as well. So yes, everyone's playing a role, but what am I
Yeah.
putting out that's attracting this to me? What am I
Yeah.
putting out
Yeah.
that's
Exactly.
making this appear in my reality? Because not everyone's experiencing this. And when we can
Yeah.
use that as an opportunity, who are my angels of evolution here? Who are the people that on the
Yeah.
surface are pissing me off? On the surface, why are they even here? But at the deeper
Exactly.
level, there's a lesson I can learn here. There's a course correction that can take place as a result of getting fired, of the business not
Yeah.
working, of going bankrupt, of the relationship ending,
Yes.
of whatever it might be. And so it's like there's an old expression, your mess becomes your message. kind of thing.
Yes,
Like
yes.
whatever you're
Yeah,
going through is setting you up to get where you're meant to be.
that's it.
But if you
That's it.
don't see the miracle in it, if you don't find the message, if you don't find the lesson, you're going to stay on the path until you learn it. This other
Yes,
perspective, life
yes,
keeps teaching you the same lessons until you learn them. And
yeah,
so it's not comfortable, but
yeah,
it's like not meant to be, because if it's comfortable, you wouldn't change. So coming from that,
yeah.
so it needs to
Thank
change.
you. Oh my God. Well, fun fact, those two people that bullied me, they did me the biggest favor. They did me well, first of all, because I'm not in that life anymore. Because had they not bullied me, guess where I'd still be working right now?
Yeah. And
Big
guess the
Pharma,
people that wouldn't
making
have been
six
positively
figures.
impacted.
Yeah, they have me by golden handcuffs, working that job, my ego running the show. I would not have had the breakdown and the breakthrough. And now I'm living such a beautiful, juicy life. I don't work a day in my life, right? But also the I was bullied like a 15-year-old girl my last 2 years as a 45-year-old woman. I was meant to go through that. You know why? I'm actually writing a series of books with Akasawa Brown and MJ McQueen. We're in the process of it right now, called Change Your Vibe, Change Your Life. And it's for kids. We're starting with the high school kids version, and then we're going to do an elementary kids version. Then we're going to have a teacher's version and a parent's version. And it is about teaching the Love Your Vibe Miracle Mindset to kids so they can take the kick me sign off their back and they get to be bully free, right? Because I was meant to be bullied just to understand that dynamic, because kids are still killing themselves because they're being bullied. So we want to give them more teachings and tools so they can show up in a higher vibration and not get bullied. And you know who the book is dedicated to?
Ooh,
Both of them.
yeah, yeah,
So how beautiful to see your angels of evolution, the people that push your buttons and hated you and shamed you, that forced you to do the work on yourself so you could learn to love yourself and honor yourself.
yeah,
Imagine kids getting that message at a young age,
absolutely. I think that
right?
the people, the situations, the things that seem to bother us the most, they're our greatest teachers.
Exactly.
And it's like when we can actually see that, it's amazing
Yeah.
what happens. And I know in my own life, when I've internalized that and actually said, how could that possibly be true? And looked, when I found
Yeah.
the answer, it's like, oh, that's how. And now I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. Now, keep in mind, grateful doesn't mean I keep them in my life. Because like you said,
Yeah.
I can
No.
love them from afar. It might not
Far
be,
outer, far outer circle. Yes.
it may not be a good fit anymore. At some point in my life,
Yes.
this person, this situation, this thing served me. It served my evolution, my growth.
Yes.
But if
Thank you.
I got it, I've understood
Yeah.
the message. Now I can step into the next chapter.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I love how you say it. In fact, we call it the farter circle, where my two best friends, my old best friends are, and basically these people aren't in my life either, right? They're in my farter circle, even though they think I'm great. It's like, well, it's just not a good fit. These people are bullies. This is how they get by in life. Unfortunately, they don't choose to live consciously. So I can't have them anywhere close to me, right? But here's how I explain it. Farter circle, FOC. I say we can fuck people with love and light, right? We don't hate and shame them, right? We can put them in our farter circle with love and light so that they get to, not affect us anymore vibrationally, energetically. We only keep the people in our inner circle that deserve to be there, ourselves first and foremost. I have a beautiful exercise again on my website that you can learn how to do that. And it's so empowering. It's so transformational. And I give it away for free. So they say give away your best stuff for free. That's one of my best stuff.
This has been such a spectacular experience to be with you. And I would love to just
Oh,
ask you, if our conversation was your last opportunity to touch the lives of everyone that's listening right now, what message would you want to make sure they leave with?
oh my God, you're going to make me cry. Let me just think about that. Whew. I would say something like, you were brought here on purpose, with a purpose that is bigger than you, and you may or may not have connected with it. And you need to do your inner work so that you can clear away all the old patterns, conditioning, crap that's not who you truly are. And you get to connect to the true divine being that you are, here for a bigger purpose. So do that inner work. learn to love your vibe using my language so that you can shine bright as a miracle magnet and manifest all the things you need to accomplish your mission in this lifetime.
I love that. I so want to acknowledge you and your heart. I love when somebody emotions come up for an individual because you could tell how real they're being, how authentic they're being. And you talked about authenticity being that highest vibration, and you radiate
Yeah.
that so beautifully. And so thank you, thank you, thank you for not only being here and for sharing your insights, your wisdom, your gifts, your being with us, but also for doing the work that you do in the world. And so many lives are changed and infinitely brighter as a result of your presence in this world and you
Thank
willing
you.
to be you, to truly be you, and to be seen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jamil. I'm being called to share one last little piece. You notice my tears because they say that if your why doesn't make you cry, find another why.
Yeah,
And what does why stand for? I don't know if you've heard this acronym before, but can I share it with you?
please.
Your why. The world helped or healed by you. You were brought here to help the world heal or help the world in some way. And you're not here by accident. And you need to connect with what that is and do the inner work and do the inner work until you connect with what that is, because the world needs you. Don't die with your real music still in you.
Such a perfect place to complete. Thank you.
Mm,
And so for
thank
our
you.
listeners who want to learn more about you, connect with you, I know you mentioned at least one website. If they
Yeah.
want to follow your journey, if they want to work with you, if they want to do any of the programs, if they want to take advantage of some of these free, amazing tools that you've talked about, how do they do that?
Well, probably elvirahopper.com has everything there, and they can grab the free tool, that the 4 circles of personal power that helps you take back your power from anybody who's ever tried to take it from you, teaches you really good boundaries, helps you to see that, everything happened for you, not to you, well, maybe not that tool. There's other tools that do that, but this one really teaches you how good boundaries are really important for great mental health and to not be bullied. And you can learn how to love people from a safe distance. So that's free on my website. They can sign up for Inboxpirations. I send out a Fab Friday every Friday. I channel a message Thursday nights and I put it in your inbox on Friday. So when you get the message, you get to hit reply and talk to me directly. So you can stay connected that way off of social media. It doesn't go to my team, it goes directly to me. Also, I just found out last week that my Fab Friday has an open rate of 47.7%. Apparently, the industry standard is 15 to 28. Mine's a 47.7. So a lot of people like to open up my Inboxpirations. This one is called Fab Friday. So yeah, I invite them to grab the free gift, sign up for Inboxpirations, stay connected, ask me anything. If people are serious and interested in talking to me, at the bottom of my signature, I have my link tree, and they can set up a 15-minute conversation with me, just if it feels aligned, to either join my team or work with me one-on-one. So that's how they can do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll have all the links Elvira is talking about in the show notes. And for our listeners, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. I think our time, our attention, our energy, these are our most valuable assets. And I don't take it lightly that you're here. I don't think Elvira does either. And if this has been valuable for you, if you would please do a few different things. The first one is share it with at least one person who you believe this can benefit. This can change the course of their entire life. You've heard in this conversation at several points, speaking into existence, the possibility for somebody. And when Elvira shares her story, when I shared what I shared, that could do that for somebody. And you could be that gift in their life. And so please share this far and wide. And if this really impacted you, please leave a review, a comment on YouTube, wherever you're checking this out. Goes a long way, helps the algorithm, helps more people see it. And so thank you again so much. And Elvira, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Just thank you. You're such a gift to this world, Jamil, and I truly see you. And you're meant to serve at the highest level you can imagine for yourself, because the world needs your magic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I received that fully. Thank you so, so
Yeah.
much. And, for our listeners, this this show, I call it Transformation Starts Today, because I have found that most people's favorite day to change their life is tomorrow. And that's why they stay stuck. But you can be different. you can apply everything Elvira and I spoke about today. And even if it's one nugget, you can change your entire life. And go back and listen to it again, and you'll find that you're not the same person you were when you started it the second time as you were when you heard it the first time. And it can change so much for you. And so thank you all so much. I look forward to being with you again in our next episode, and just wishing you a blessed and beautiful life. Take care. Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation served you, it would mean a lot if you left a review and shared this with anyone who may benefit. An extraordinary life without regret is available to you now. Choose it. It's your time.